So I'm going to introduce our first guest for today, Dr. Phil Chou. Phil's the Director of Brewing Solutions at John I. Haas in Yakima, Washington. He's a trained organic chemist with a degree, master's and PhD from the University of Utah, University of Wyoming and the University of Minnesota. And after starting his professional career developing flame retardant additives, Phil saw the light and transitioned to the fermented beverages industry. Prior to joining Haas, he worked at Miller Brewing, E&J, Gallo Winery, Guzma Enterprises, and was the owner and operator of a craft brewery. So John's going to talk to us today about liquid hops, reach the peak of beer and flavour, brewing efficiency, and business profitability. Welcome, Dr. Phil.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction. I'm going to not stand behind the podium, want to be a little more mobile and a little more casual. So really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about some of the more recent developments, cutting edge products that are hop-based that hopefully add to your brewer's toolbox and something that you can use in your breweries to help you with efficiency while at the same time achieving your flavor goals. So this is the title of my talk, and like I said, really the focus of what we have been doing at Haas in terms of new hop-based products is try to develop products that give the brewer flavor while at the same time increasing their efficiency. So especially this is really important now with the current economic climate, the current state of craft brewing. People are paying more and more attention to the bottom line, want to get more efficient, want to get more beer out the door, be more sustainable, all of those things. So that's really the focus of our new product development efforts. So one of the rules of thumb that we use when considering efficiency and is related to traditional hop products that contain vegetative matter. 1 kilogram of vegetative matter absorbs about 10 liters of wort or beer. So if you look at this picture, that's the wort in the beaker on the right. There's vegetative matter in the beaker on the left. That's in that 1 to 10 ratio. You mix them together and you get this slurry of hop material, wort or beer. And depending on how you're set up, it can be really difficult to recover the wort or beer that's in that slurry. If you have a centrifuge or filtration system set up, it's less of a challenge. But if you're a smaller brewery without a centrifuge, without filtration, then you're essentially losing that amount of wort or beer, and that's going to impact your bottom line, your efficiency at the end of the day. So what we have here as the Barth Haas group, of which John I. Haas is part of, HPA is part of, Barth Haas Germany, Barth Haas in the UK, we have a whole suite of tools that the brewer can use to help deliver flavor, bitterness to beer and also improve yields, efficiency, throughput, etc. So on the hot side, we have products that you can apply. Flex, Kettle Ready are more on the bittering end of things, and that's more in the kettle side of things. Incognito is more of a flavor product that's applied to the whirlpool. Lupomax is actually a concentrated pellet product that's also can be applied to the whirlpool and also on the cold side as well. We have Spectrum that has come out fairly recently, which also provides flavor, but this is a cold side application. And then I'll speak a little bit about Hop Haze, and that's not so much a flavor solution, but that's a tool to use to generate haze. So we'll start off with Flex, and among the features and benefits of Flex, number one, it's really easy to use because at ambient temperature, it flows. So you don't have to heat it up. You don't have to use specialized dosing equipment to get Flex into your beer. It's easy. The other part of the ease of use is that the package is super easy to use. It's a resealable plastic jug that's recyclable. It has a handle. So it's really easy to open it, pour. If you don't use all the material, you can reseal the package. From a product specification standpoint, it's concentrated alpha. So it's got 65% alpha in there. So you're going to be getting more bittering bang for your buck with this product. And if you compare 65% alpha to, could you send it back? If you compare it to pellets with, in the range approximately 10 to 18, extract 50 to 55%, it's more concentrated than either of those products. No vegetative matter, so you're not encountering that situation of 1 kilogram of vegetative matter absorbing 10 liters of wort or beer. So your efficiencies are going to go up. And then just from like agricultural residues up to 98% reduction in nitrates, which is really good from a labeling standpoint. Like I said, easily pours without heating. Also mentioned no dosing equipment necessary. From a shipping and storage standpoint, you're winning as well, because if you equate 3 1 kilogram jugs of Flex, that's equivalent to 1 20 kilo box of 15% alpha pellets. So it's going to cost less to ship, and then it's got a much smaller storage footprint. So you're going to be gaining some advantages in that respect. And it's a pretty stable product. So it's an extract-based product, and it's stable for 3 years unopened. And then if you happen to open it and not use all the product, it can sit on the shelf for about a year. And then other benefits, there's no green matter. So already mentioned that efficiency gain. You're generating less solid waste out of your brewery. And so depending on what your situation is, you're not going to be sending this solid waste to either landfill or sending it down the drain to your water treatment plant. So that's a plus. Already mentioned shipping costs, already mentioned storage footprint, and already went over the easy to use, resealable, recyclable package. So if you want to talk about the value proposition, if an HPA salesperson goes into your brewery and says, oh, okay, I want you to use Flex and substitute T90 pellets. And so in this situation, we, just assuming this amount of utilization, so you're going to get greater amounts of utilization, alpha utilization relative to pellets. And then for this situation where you're doing a 117 hectoliter brew, you're targeting 35 IBU, you're going to require this amount of either pellets or Flex. And then you get to the price per kilogram alpha. And then actually let's go down to the total cost of bitter. And you'll see that Flex actually costs more to bitter than the T90 pellets. And so my old business partner would have looked at that and said, we're not buying that. It's too expensive. So, but you've got to go past just the purchase price of Flex versus T90 pellets. You've got to take into account the beer loss. So for this amount of pellets that you use, you're going to lose about 1.2 hectoliters or a barrel of beer. So you're not having any beer savings. In fact, you're having beer loss. And so the final cost of bitter is about $158 in this case. But since you have no beer loss with the Flex, you're ending up the final cost of bitter being less than the T90 pellets. So because of that efficiency gain, you're actually saving money, and you're also gaining more beer to sell because you're losing less beer in the process. So just don't focus on the sticker price. Just think of it through and factor in the beer loss savings. Then you can say, okay, well, Flex is an extract-based product. Why should I use Flex versus CO2 extract? So as I mentioned, it's pourable at ambient, no need to preheat. CO2 extract can be messy dealing with these cans. You don't have to punch holes in the package and throw it into your kettle or use a cage or whatever. Flex is more concentrated in alpha, and then it also has a lot less beta and waxes versus CO2 extracts. So you're not paying for things that are eventually going to go away in your trub. So that's another plus with flex versus CO2 extract. And then the packaging is so much more convenient and easy to use. It's not a metal can, it's resealable, recyclable, etc. So just ease of use compared to cans of extract. Okay, so this moves me on to kettle ready, which is another hot side product application in the brew kettle. And kettle ready is actually a light, stable bittering product. So if you have clear packaging, light struck flavor can be an issue for you. So kettle ready, some of the features and benefits of kettle ready, it's an efficient way to bitter your beer and to actually give some kettle hop flavor. The active ingredient are the Rho isoalpha acids, and Rho gives you a nice, pleasant, smooth degree of bitterness. So from a quality of bitterness standpoint, this product gives you a nice quality of bitterness. It's generic, so it's non-varietal. Light struck is not going to be an issue if you use Rho, and it's standardized. So kettle ready comes as a 40% Rho isoalpha acid product. Again, covering features and benefits, kettle ready is 100% hop derived, so you're not going to have any labeling issues. Light stability, smooth bitterness, I already mentioned, and it's going to have higher utilization than your traditional hop products. It has a high oil content, and why we want to point that out is that when you use kettle ready, because it has that high oil content, you can impart kettle hop flavor using this versus just a straight bittering extract, which you're not necessarily going to get that kettle hop flavor. No vegetative matter, so you're not going to be losing that 10 liters of wort per 1 kilogram of vegetative matter, and again, you're not going to be contributing to your solid waste stream. So specifications already mentioned, 40% Rho. Utilization of alpha is in the 45 to 55% range. High level of oil content, 12 to 20%. And then in terms of these physical properties, viscosity, density, it's pretty easy to pour. It's not very viscous. And so it's really an easy product to use. And from a shelf life standpoint, about 2 years of shelf life in an unopened product. And so now we transition from the bittering products to the flavor products. And so Incognito is a flavor product, hot side flavor product, similar to Flex. It flows at ambient temperature, so you don't have to preheat or anything like that. It's easy to just dose in to your whirlpool. It's concentrated, and number one, it's varietal specific. So I believe I have a slide that shows you the different varieties that Incognito is available in. It does have a high level of alpha acids in there. So one thing you have to keep in mind is that depending on the timing of your addition, the temperature of your wort, you're going to get a bitterness contribution from Incognito. So something to take into account. And we see about 2 to 10% utilization with Incognito. So you're going to have to factor that into your IBU calculations to hit your bittering target. No vegetative matter. So again, I've already mentioned the advantages of no vegetative matter already, and similar to Flex in terms of agricultural residues, those are vastly decreased. Available in a number of different size packaging, has the handle, and it's resealable. And I like talking about the handle just because if you brew, it might seem like a little thing, but every little bit helps when you're in your brew day to make your job a little easier. So I always like mentioning the handle. So these are the varieties that Incognito is available in. There's some public varieties, Centennial, Chinook, proprietary varieties to HBC or hop breeding companies, Citra, Equinaut, HBC 472, Mosaic Sabro, and then and then Eldorado is also available as well. So in terms of technical specifications for Incognito, in terms of dosage, the dosage range, we recommend that you dose between 50 and 200 grams per hectoliter. Really, if you go past that 200 grams per hectoliter, it starts becoming diminishing returns. Although we do have customers that go way above that, and you know, it's good for us. We sell more Incognito, but it really doesn't do you that much good to go above the 200 grams per hectoliter. Already mentioned there is a bitterness impact. And then if you have existing brands where you want to do flavor matching, our rule of thumb is that 1 gram per liter of Incognito can replace approximately 5.8 grams per liter of T90 pellets. So in an existing brand, that's kind of the rule of thumb that you work from in developing your recipe, your hop bill calculations. For a new brand, really all bets are off. You can, use however much Incognito you want, and you aren't necessarily bound by this 1 to 5.8 replacement rate. Shelf life, 2 years unopened, 6 months if you have some left in your jug. So fairly stable product. And then also going to go into the value proposition for Incognito. Again, say this is your T90 pellet hop bill in your original recipe. Here we're going to be using 11.7, about 12 kilograms in lieu of your T90 pellets. The ingredient cost, again, you're going to get sticker shock, or some people will get sticker shock. It's $2,300 to about $1,700. Why should I use this if it costs that much? But then, like I said earlier in the flex value proposition, you have to take into account the beer loss, and in this case, again, 117 hectoliter brew. Your process loss we calculate in this example to be about $750. The savings that we get here is $93. And then you see that at the end of the day, it actually becomes more economical to use Incognito versus the T90 pellets. And you might say that, well, that's not a huge difference. Truthfully, it isn't necessarily this huge difference, but it is lower cost at the end of the day to use Incognito. And if you make the same beer over the course of the year, these savings add up. And plus you get all of the advantages that aren't factored into this cost here, like the shipping savings, the less solid waste generation, storage footprint, etc. Okay, so then now we transition to Spectrum. So one of our holy grails that we always talk about within the Barth Haas group is to create a product where we can dry hop without dry hopping. And Spectrum is a step towards that direction. Spectrum doesn't necessarily achieve that dry hopping without dry hopping holy grail, but it gets us towards that goal. So in terms of features and benefits, again, similar to the products that I've mentioned earlier, it's flowable, fully dispersible at ambient temperatures, so it's really easy to use. 100% hop derived, no emulsifiers, no chemical solvents, so there aren't going to be any labeling issues. There's no vegetative matter, so again, going through all these benefits that we've already mentioned for the other products. And it has a standardized oil content, so you're going to get consistent brewing performance, lot to lot, year to year. So that helps you so you don't have to radically change your recipes every time you get a new lot Spectrum. And it is variety specific. And I think there's another slide with the varieties available, but what I have here is a video showing you Spectrum being dispersed. And so there we go. So you're adding the Spectrum, and you can see it's kind of this glob, and then it requires some mixing to get it dispersed. That's just water that it's in there. So stir, 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 and you can see that it's going into solution. They're being dispersed, and there you go. So if you tried that with CO2 extract or a lot of other extract products, no matter how much you stir, this isn't going to happen. So just a little demo of how Spectrum is easily dispersed in water. So in terms of specifications, recommended dosing rates, 0.05 to 1 gram per liter. You don't want to go over that 1 gram per liter, and this is very important. Like with Incognito, if you went over that 200 grams per liter, you're not going to really necessarily suffer negative consequences. But with Spectrum, if you go over that 1 gram per liter upper limit, you run the risk of introducing some harsh, hot burny kind of flavor attributes to your beer. So in this case, more is not better as far as that upper limit goes. Bitterness impact, there is no bitterness impact from the use of Spectrum. There is alpha in there, but that since you're adding it to the cold side, you don't have the heat to convert alpha into iso, so you aren't going to get a bitterness impact. In terms of existing brands, again with replacing T90s with Spectrum, our rule of thumb is 1 part Spectrum can replace 5 parts to 8 parts of T90 pellets. So that's kind of the rule of thumb that you work from when you are developing your recipes. Another nice feature of this product is that there are no exogenous enzymes. So since there's no vegetative matter, it's not bringing all the enzymes that are associated with that. So you're not going to run the risk of having hop creep happen in your beer. So if you're having issues with hop creep from your heavily dry hop beers, you might want to consider using Spectrum. As I mentioned earlier, there are some alpha acids in Spectrum, so we aren't necessarily going to guarantee you light stability because those alpha acids can still undergo that light struck reaction. So you keep that in mind. And then storage conditions 2 to 15 C. And then shelf life 12 months unopened, 1 month after you've opened the package. And again, this package is pretty convenient. It's a plastic jar, basically, resealable cap. And so, yeah, very easy to use. So some other things to keep in mind beyond sort of that general use guideline. So if you have existing brands and you want a flavor match, you're probably not going to be able to replace all your T90s with Spectrum. So realistically, you can replace up to 70% of your T90s in an existing brand and get a flavor match. For a new brand, all bets are off. You can use 100% Spectrum rather than T90s. So this rule of thumb is only applied for an existing brand. Already mentioned, do not overdose. Initial trial dosages, you probably want to start on the light side and then move your way up. This is a flavor product. We don't have a set formula for you to calculate what your exact Spectrum dosage is going to be. It's not like the bittering products with alpha. But in this case, you're just going to have to do some trials on your own, small scale. Hopefully you have pilot systems that you can use. Recommended point of addition near the end of fermentation. You get a little of that biotransformation happening. And then another important consideration that you have to keep in mind is Spectrum does flow. And if you open the package, you can pour it in, but that leaves behind some residue in the package. And difficult to get that residue out. You know, it's difficult to scrape it out. So you're better off pre-dispersing before you dose. That way you don't have that issue of the residue on the package, and you can get that entire package into your beer. And so the recommendation here is to pre-disperse in 5 to 10 times de-aerated water or wort. Another thing to keep in mind is, you know, some of you might think that, hey, let's just heat it up and then it'll just flow even easier. It's a good idea, but practically it won't work, because within the, you know, kind of reasonable temperature range you can heat spectrum up to, really doesn't change the viscosity. So you're not really doing much by heating it up. You're still going to have that residue left in the package. Okay, Hop Kick. Hop Kick is a new product that has not been commercially released, and it's scheduled to be commercially released at the end of this month. So it's imminently going to hit the market. And what is Hop Kick? Hop Kick is essentially a hop essence. So it's an aqueous solution, completely water soluble, and this is the Hop Kick here, not these two guys here. These are kind of the byproducts from the process. So you can see that Hop Kick is a nice, clear, water white solution. And you know, this is a tool that you can use to provide flavor and aroma to beer, and it also has applications in other beverages as well, which I'll show you in a moment. So in terms of features and benefits, it's 100% hop derived. So there aren't any labeling issues. It's a traditional beer product, so you know, that gives it a little more, I guess, cachet versus something that is a non-traditional brewing ingredient. It's emulsifier and solvent free, so there is nothing that hasn't come from hops or water in this product. It's an aqueous liquid, low viscosity. It pours easily, easy to use. No vegetative matter, so you know, no solid waste like I've mentioned before with other products. But for non-brewing applications, an important consideration is that it doesn't impart a haze or color or anything like that. So that's definitely important. And like I said, it's colorless, no impact on color. And it is available in different hop varieties. So depending on what hop varieties you like or what type of hop flavor you want to impart, different varieties are available. So in terms of varieties, right now we have Citra, Centennial, Eldorado, Mosaic, Galaxy, and Eclipse will also be available as well. Hopefully down the line with Hop Kick. We're also working on other varieties to release, but at least with the initial commercial launch, these are the 4 varieties that are going to be available. So in terms of specifications, in terms of dosage rates, it really depends on the beverage that you're adding it to. So beer, which is more complex than a seltzer or water, you're going to have a higher dosage range. So 0.1 to 1.2% dosage range. For waters or teas, it's going to be lower, 0.03 to 0.25% dose. And then for a seltzer or FMB, flavored malt beverage, you're going to be in this range, 0.1 to 2%. This product has to be stored refrigerated. I mean, you could store it frozen as well, but you know, a lot of people don't have that capability. But at the very least, you need to store it at refrigerated temperatures. And at those temperatures, the shelf life is about 9 months unopened. Shelf life studies are ongoing with this product, so this number will probably be increased further down the line. But at this point, what we can confidently say is that its shelf life is about 9 months. So I'm going to go into a little seltzer example where we did some trials with seltzers. At least in the US, seltzers are hugely popular, and they're less so here in Australia. But this gives you a good example of an alternative beverage to which this particular product can be applied. So seltzers use a variety of different fruit flavors to flavor their beverage. And that gives you a flavor outcome depending on what type of fruit flavors that you add or other botanicals. If you add hop-based flavors in addition to these fruit flavors, what's the flavor outcome? So in this particular example, this is a commercially available hard seltzer, and it uses 0.1% weight to volume lime flavor to flavor this particular product. And what we did was we compared the commercially available lime-flavored seltzer to a seltzer, the same seltzer where we added 0.6% weight to volume Citra Hop Kick. And so what's the sensory outcome in this example? So from a sensory standpoint, what we found was that the people who tasted this preferred the seltzer with the hop kick in it over the seltzer, just the commercial lime-flavored seltzer. Without hop kick, people mentioned that it had this artificial lemon-limey kind of flavor. But with the hop kick, it actually made it more holistic, so it made it more natural tasting. It had attributes of fresh squeezed lime with zest. So you can see that while this product without the hop kick, perfectly good. I mean, it's commercial, it's selling. But with the hop kick, you made this product even better. So you can use this as a standalone flavors, and also in conjunction with other flavors, and to make that particular product better. So just to summarize, there's a whole bunch of avenues or ways to utilize hops from a bittering and a flavor perspective. You can deconstruct the hop to create flavor products that not only deliver flavor to beer, but also deliver it in an efficient manner. Demonstrated that we have hot and cold side applications, definitely varietal specific flavors in a lot of these products. Address really needs of the brewer that we hear a lot, especially over the past few years. So ease of use, efficiency is really big, and there are some sustainability elements to this product. And I think that is the end. So thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Could you briefly speak on how some of these products are actually manufactured?
Yeah, sure. So ultimately, the raw materials will be pellets, and then you can do CO2 extraction of those pellets to get extracts, and then you can actually further deconstruct that extract into different products like flex. And other products will take extract, then you actually add back in oils. Other products like the essence, that's kind of a proprietary process where you take pellets and you extract out the hop oils or hop essence into that aqueous solution. So that's kind of proprietary, but that's it in a nutshell. So it's really not using necessarily new technology, but just being able to take the pellets and deconstruct it and then add things back as you need it for a particular product. And I can talk to you in more depth offline if you like, but that's kind of the real big picture explanation of how things are made.
Thanks, Phil. We have got another question that's come in via the app. So,
okay.
And actually, I'm interested to know this for all products, but should you CO2 purge the resealable container after each use?
Okay, that's a great question. And the shelf life studies that we didn't do that. So that applies to the situation where it wasn't purged. Best practice would be if you do have like nitrogen available to purge the headspace, but you don't absolutely have to. And all those shelf life studies are non-purged packages.
I have a question as well. So it's very interesting you talking about, integrating it into existing products. So I have sort of a two-pronged question here. So have you got any tips on how to sort of compare them and what to look out for and how to go about that process? And then the second one is there any perceivable change to things like foam retention, color over time? Is there anything that you've picked up on that front?
So in terms of what are, like your first question is like what product to use when. That's what I think you're asking. So it really depends on what you want to do. So like bittering, Flex, that's pretty clean bittering product. You're not going to get kettle hop flavor from that. It's not light stable. Kettle ready would be then your product to use if you want light stable bitterness and you want to impart some kettle hop flavor. From a flavoring standpoint, it really depends on what you want to do, what type of equipment you have. And I've heard people say that, well, we don't have a whirlpool, so can't use Incognito. So if you don't have a whirlpool, then you should move to Spectrum. And then with Essence, that actually is applied more towards at the very end of the brewing process, even just before packaging. So there you can add flavor there. If maybe your beer has a little less flavor than you thought it would, you can use a product like Hop Kick to touch up your flavor at the end of the process. So that's it really depends. I guess that's not the greatest answer, but it depends on what your needs are, how you're set up, what your flavor profile, et cetera, that you're seeking. And then in terms of, what was the second question?
Is there any perceivable impacts on things like foam retention, color over time, that kind of thing?
Well, with these products, foam retention, I don't think any of those products will help you out from a foam retention standpoint. We have anecdotal feedback from customers that shelf life of their beers increase when they use some of these products, but we don't have hard data to say that. So all I'll say is that we have anecdotal evidence that shelf life may be increased if you substitute, say, pellets with some of these extract-based products. Let me think, anything else from color standpoint. Really, the products aren't going to noticeably add or subtract from color, so I don't think it's going to have a huge color impact. So those are kind of the first things that come to mind.
That's it. Thank you. Is there any more questions in the back?
I've used Spectrum before, and I have found that it's probably not super user-friendly. It's hard. It's extremely viscous. It's hard to measure it out. I think that there's probably a big chance of getting some O2 into your beer. You have to de-aerate the water. And it's a bit of a pain in the ass to use, in my opinion.
Right.
Is there any research and development in getting a less viscous product that's easier to use?
That's a great question, and I totally feel your pain there. And really, at this point, I don't necessarily have a great answer for you in terms of ease of use or making it easier for you to use in terms of pouring out and measuring. And I believe, so this was developed by our Haas UK colleagues, and I believe that they are looking at ways to make this a little easier to use, a little easier to weigh out and things like that. A possible way to do this is just to pre-disperse in some deaerated water and make your calculations based on that. But that's not a great solution either. So at this point, I have to say that I understand where you're coming from, but I don't really have a great answer for you at this point.
That's cool.
With your seltzer tasting panel that you had, comparing the lime and the citra hop dose panel, was that a panel of seltzer drinkers or was it Haas staff or beer drinkers or whatever, because a hop preference, like seltzers made for a lot of companies, I think, are an introduction to non-hopped products that we can provide. So adding hops to a typically non-hopped product seems a bit counterintuitive to me. Who was preferring?
So that particular panel actually had Haas people as well as from the company that made the seltzer. So it's kind of a mix, and so that was, trying to account for bias or whatever, or bias in perception and things like that. So yeah.
Cool.
I think maybe you're trying to talk this before, just with stuff like Hop Kick and maybe Spectrum. So do you not see really any like longer term flavour stability, like on those bright, like nice flavours that you want to get out of Mosaic?
In terms of once it's in the
product itself. Yeah. Whereas it's sort of like, all right, kind of once it's in, that Mosaic flavour is going to sort of die off at the same rate as regular pellets.
That's a great question, and we really haven't done a lot in terms of formal flavor stability in-house. We've run trials with customers, and we haven't heard any feedback that once it's in product, that over time you're going to see a significant dip in the flavor intensity. I'm sure people would have relayed that on to us if that were the case. And then certainly the overall intensity is going to depend on the dose that you add. So that is dose dependent. But in terms of just long-term stability, have not heard anything to where it's like precipitously different from like a regular Mosaic flavor.
I think there's a good opportunity for another talk next year.
Right.
Maybe reviewing some studies.
Yep.
And I think it'd be really interesting to see. It's a great question. Thank you.